Hey people, I'm going to be talking in this video about what is called a house style. By now you should have done some research about house styles. You should have read some of the activities on the website, and you will understand that a house style is simply a way in which a document is laid out or formatted. Okay, every organization, every business has a house style of the way things are laid out in their documents. Now I'm going to start simply by just typing in house style. Okay, what am I talking about? If we're talking about house style, we're talking about things like, and I'm going to start, we're talking about things like a color scheme. So ask yourself, what color scheme am I going to use for the documents that I'm going to create, the templates that I'm going to use? Okay, if we were talking about Sherwood School, a house style for Sherwood School, the color scheme in the house style would definitely be blue and white. Okay, you need to lay these out. You need to write them down on your evidence report. So what would be the color scheme for the documents that you're creating for Ashdown? You decide. Okay, next thing you need to talk about is the sort of fonts that you're going to use. What sort of fonts are you going to choose? Are you going to use Calibri? Are you going to use a Times New Roman? Are you going to use a what's the other font? An Arial font? It's entirely up to you. Okay, you decide what fonts you're going to use. And when I talk about fonts, I'm talking about headings. Okay, I'm talking about subheadings. I'm talking about headings, subheadings, and I'm talking about the main body. So when you're talking about your fonts, you need to describe the fonts that you're going to use. Okay, what headings, what fonts are you going to use for your headings? What fonts are you going to use for your subheadings? What fonts are you going to use for your main body? That is when you write. And when you talk about these as well, you need to talk about the font size. Okay, and the font size will vary greatly according to size. The headings, the font size for a heading is normally quite large. So maybe you're talking about maybe a size 24. Okay, if you're talking about the font size for a subheading, that will be slightly smaller, and we're talking about maybe a size 18 or maybe a size 19. Okay, and when you talk about the main body and we're talking about font size again, you would probably use a size of about, let's say, 14 or 12. Okay, so you're talking about house style. How are you going to lay out your documents? Color scheme. What color scheme are you going to use? Fonts. What fonts are you going to use? And when you decide on the fonts you're going to use, you need to put the fonts in category of a heading. What sort of fonts are you going to use for your heading? What sort of fonts are you going to use for your subheading? What sort of fonts are you going to use for your main body? And then you need to think about the size of the fonts. What size of font for your heading? What size of font for a subheading? A main body. Okay, you decide. And then you need to move on to what sort of pictures are you going to use. And when I say pictures, I'm talking about a logo. What logo are you going to use? Are you going to use a logo of Ashdown, of McDonald's, whatever? What are you going to use? And if you're going to be using a logo, where will this logo be placed? For consistency purposes, where will the logo be placed? Because if you look at business documents, the logo is often placed in the same place. Is it going to be in the top right hand corner? Is it going to be in the bottom left hand corner? Is it going to be in the middle? Is it going to be on the side of the document? You decide. And this is what this section is about. You need to write about your house style. You need to think this through and you need to type it down. Talk about your color scheme. Talk about the fonts you're going to use. Break it down into subheadings and headings and main body. Break it down by size. Talk about what pictures you're going to use. Talk about the logo. And then talk about where they will be placed. And that is how you need to do this section. Now please go and do it. Remember, you're just typing. Go and do it now. Thank you.